Darth Vader, Walter White, Jaime Lannister. All villains, right? And how we love our villains. And we especially love it when they get redeemed, don't we? It didn't matter that Darth Vader had blown up an entire planet and killed innumerable people. He saved Luke. He's okay. Walter White was doing it all for his kids and his family. That's why he sold all those drugs and killed all those people. It's okay. At the very end, he realized how bad he was, and there was some redemption there too. Jaime Lannister, he loved his brother. Maybe he's going to kill Cersei. Someone has to, right? Game of Thrones? Anyone? Bueller? Sweet, okay. We want our villains to be redeemed to the point that one little small kind act, or even just killing the right person instead of the wrong person, will make us want to root for them at times. How many watched Darth Vader take off his helmet, see his son with his own eyes, and die, spoiler alert, how many years ago? And then get a little bit choked up, right? Of course, then we get to watch those amazing prequels where we're going to see him fall from grace. Such great movies. That's a lie, by the way. So, we love seeing these villains get redeemed and have hope again. In the end, they can have great things happen to them. And today we have Saul. And by the way, Saul never changed his name to Paul. Paul is just the Greek Gentile version of his name. It goes back and forth. If it's the Jews, he says Saul. If it's the Greeks, he says Paul. That's it. But we have Saul, who is a villain. Someone who, the very first time we meet him in Scriptures, anyone know what he's doing? What? Killing. He didn't do the killing. The very first moment is at the stoning of Stephen. And not the happy kind of stone. This is the kind where you actually get big rocks thrown at your head. And Paul is the guy holding everyone else's coats. If you have this big heavy coat on, it's going to block your throwing arm. You can't throw so well. And so he's going to hold your coat to make sure you can throw your rock a little bit easier. That's when we first meet him. Happy-go-lucky kind of guy. And then, yes, we go on, and he's arresting Christians and having them thrown in prison and killed. He's our villain of the week. And Christ comes, blinds him, and says, Paul, why are you persecuting me? Why are you doing all these horrible things to my followers? Why are you doing this? Here's the thing about villains. 99.9% of them don't know they're the bad guy. That's why we love the sympathetic villains. They don't know how bad they're being. Either the occasional acts crazy, horrible human being, fine. But most of them have some sort of reasoning of why they're doing what they're doing. And with Saul, he had been trained for years. He had been trained to think that this is the only way you can be, the only way to truly follow God. And if you are going against that, if you're leading people away from this way of following God, God's going to come down and punish our entire people. I have to help save my people, and by doing that, I'm going to have to break a few eggs. And I don't want to do it maybe, but it's what has to be done. He does it with great zeal, because he's trying to protect everyone. And this is how he's been trained, how he's been raised. This is what he is meant to do. And he doesn't realize that what he's doing is wrong. He doesn't realize that when he's trying to serve his God, he's actually doing the opposite. And so when he is met by God on that road, he's able to turn around after he is healed by Ananias. And able to see again, see a new way of being, seeing a new world around him, see God with new eyes. And we have someone redeemed. Now, we love redemption stories. We love them in our fiction. We love them all around us. And there are even stories that maybe we don't know at times, and we sit and go, "Wow, that was pretty cool." I was reading a story this week, and I'm like, has this ever happened, something like this, in today's day and age? So, in 2009, there was a guy named Owen Wilson. Anybody know that name at all? Okay. So Owen Wilson was a member of the KKK. So, happy-go-lucky guy, right? Whenever people would come down his street of a different color, he would throw things at them and harass them and cause issues. There were times he even beat people. And in 2009, he had a realization. And he attributes part of it to Barack Obama becoming our president. But I have to imagine there's also people around him at the time going, you know, being racist is not a good thing, right? You probably shouldn't be this way. And one day, one of his friends asked him, when you die, do you know where you are going? He answered, yes, I do. I am going to hell. For the things that I have done, for the sins that I have committed, for my hatred of my brothers, I am going to go to hell. And he made a decision at that point to contact the papers and have his big apology. He wanted to apologize to the world that he had done these things. He wanted to recant his previous behaviors. And he came to a realization during this that one of the men that he had beaten had become a congressman. John Lewis. Anyone know this guy? Thank you. You know, had been an advocate, had been someone out there to try to change the world. And one day he was in a whites-only section, and this guy had come up with his 3 or 4 of his buddies and beaten him for a while. So all these years later, he finds out this is one of the guys that he had beat. So he flew to Washington and went to John Lewis and apologized. Imagine being John Lewis in that moment. Looking upon the face of someone who had beaten you so many years ago. Someone who had done hatred against you and your brothers and your sisters. Someone who had taken your entire race and said, you are beneath us, you are unworthy, you are nothing. And here the guy is, up to your face, saying, I'm sorry. Could we accept that? John Lewis is a better man than I. He immediately forgave him. He said, you know, and my ethos of pacifism and my ethos of nonviolence, I had to forgive him. There was no question in my heart. And the two of them would go on and be on Oprah and all these other shows together to show that reconciliation can happen. Which is a wonderful story, right? That is a story that needs to be told more often. Or someone has made horrendous mistakes and they've turned their lives around, whether it be over the course of years and decades or the course of a week or a day. It will recognize their sins and to move forward. And yet at times it seems to me we love those stories in movies. We love those stories in famous people. We love those stories all around us. But there also are times we can't let go of those things in our lives, and people have come to us and harmed us. Or people who have harmed our families. Or people have harmed others that we never even met. I remember when Michael Vick was signed by the Steelers after he had been in prison for dogfighting. And we were actually volunteering at an animal shelter at the time, and we had volunteers from the shelter went to Pittsburgh to protest. And I can understand their anger, right? But here's a man who had seemingly turned his life around. He had gone to prison. He had paid his price. He was trying to get people away from this kind of lifestyle. Be an advocate for animals instead of one who harmed them. And here were protesters saying it's not enough. I know in my heart, I wasn't married to Tiger Woods. I heard stories about him. But even now I sit there going, do I really want him to win anything? Not really. Was I sad when Jerry Falwell passed away? No, to my shame. We are a people called to forgiveness. We're a people who are called towards redemption. We're called to celebrate when people are able to look at our lives and say, I've made mistakes, let me try again. We follow the God of second and third and fourth and 20,000th second chances. Ponder for a moment in your hearts if there's someone who you just cannot or would not be able to forgive if they came up to you and said, I'm sorry. To think words are just not enough. That I can't trust you anymore. I don't want good to happen for you anymore. I imagine in the darkest parts of our hearts, there's at least one person there we can think of, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, whether we admit to ourselves or not. But let's turn it around. We're always the heroes of the stories that we tell, right? In our lives, we're always the ones who are right and someone else has done wrong to us. Ponder for a moment if there's any stories in your life, any people in your life who might look at you and say, no, I was the hero and you were the villain. You may have thought you were doing right. You may have thought you were trying to do what was proper, but in reality, you caused great harm. That's also a painful thing to think about. Not a question I like answering for myself. But also helps us to remember that we are in need of redemption too. We are in need of the same forgiveness. We are in need of the same love. We are in need of the same Creator who comes down to us and makes us new every single day. And we have to hope that when we're able to go to someone and say, I am sorry, and they can forgive us as well. That they can have the strength of Ananias and the strength of John Lewis. We're a people called towards healing. A people who are called towards wholeness. A people who are called towards redemption. Redemption can only happen when other people also are able to say, come and be a part. Re-enter into society with us. What happens otherwise is that we think we did wrong. We come back. We say we're sorry. We are trying to do better. But then be cast away again. How much easier is it to fall back into what we were trying to leave? To find safety back in old ways of being. Part of our responsibility to each other as well is to help each other, to uplift each other. Now, at times we do need to call out wrong behaviors, right? We can look around and say, really, I know everyone sins. I know we're all villains in some people's lives, but being racist is not okay. We can say that with pretty good, strong conviction, right? Or being sexist, or being anything else, one of those wonderful ists. We can still call that out and say, we want you to call you into a new way of being. We want to call you into healing, call you into communion with all of our friends and family. While still acknowledging that we need to be forgiven as well. We have a God of hope. A God who unifies us. A God who gives us these great possibilities to grow and to learn and experience new ways of being. A God who makes us new every single day. And it's not something we can ever forget, but rather celebrate. Celebrate when it happens to us. Celebrate when it happens to our friends and our family, and celebrate all the more when a lost sheep has been found. When the prodigal son has come home. When our enemies realize we need to be family. Let us rejoice and be glad that we are able to have this resurrection in all of our lives. Instead of deciding who gets to have it and who doesn't. So praise be to God. Praise be to God for being with us, for leading us, and to bringing us all to new life. Amen.